welcome to another exciting edition of Jamaica Magazine. I am your host, Audrey Williams. Let us begin by emphasizing the obvious. February is a special month. How come? In addition to highlighting occasions like Reggae Month and the significance of heart health, today we're going to take on a topic aligned with another February focus: relationships. In the month of love, we're hearing what he says and she says about relationships. And remember, we don't have relationship problems. We have individuals with problems who bring them into the relationship. But we'll discuss more about it when we get back after the news.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Friday, February 16, 2024. Jamaica's national budget is now firmly in the trillion-dollar range, with total expenditure and payments for fiscal year 2024-2025 estimated at $1.3 trillion. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clarke, tabled the estimates of expenditure for the upcoming financial year during yesterday's sitting of the House of Representatives. The $1.3 trillion spending budget is mostly comprised of non-debt recurrent expenditure of $769.9 billion, which includes $442 billion to conclude the implementation phase of the restructured compensation system for public sector workers. Wages and salaries are projected to represent 12.6% of GDP in the new fiscal year.
It is obvious, Madam Speaker, that the government has made a concerted effort to address historical challenges with public sector compensation, and now it is time to consolidate. As a country, we need to be careful to ensure that sufficient resources are left for growth-inducing capital expenditure, for programs that can enhance Jamaica's human capital, and for social expenditure on behalf of more vulnerable members of the Jamaican society.
The rest of the budget provides for debt service payments in the amount of $491.2 billion and capital expenditure of $80 billion. Minister Clarke says improving human capital is a major theme in the disbursement of the capital expenditure budget, which includes milestone allocations for the modernization of a number of health facilities. He explains that the revenue expenditure profile meets the targeted positive fiscal balance of 0.3% of GDP as required under the recovery profile generated after the suspension of the fiscal rules in the 2020 to 2021 financial year.
Loan financing, Madam Speaker, is therefore programmed at $191 billion, and combined with the significant amortization amount, will contribute to a net reduction in the debt as we continue to work towards achievement of the legislative debt-to-GDP target of 60% or less.
Government's proposed expenditure package is to be financed by revenue and grant receipts of $1 trillion and loan and other financing of $0.3 trillion. The estimates will go before the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament from March 5 to 7 before the Finance Minister opens the budget debate on March 12. Government will be amplifying efforts to secure private sector interests in renewable energy generation in the new fiscal year. Last year, the Generation Procurement Entity invited tenders for the supply of up to 100 megawatts of electricity generation capacity for the national grid. In fiscal year 2024-2025, another request for proposal for a further 168 megawatts will be launched. Governor General Sir Patrick Allen made the announcement as he delivered the throne speech in Parliament yesterday.
The government will also continue its focus on rural electrification with the plan for full national access to electricity being accelerated over the next 5 years.
The Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport will also be placing increased focus on improved quality of service by telecommunications operators.
The Telecommunications Quality of Service Standards rules, which establish the formal framework for the parameters and targets against which operators' performance is measured, will be published.
During his 2024-2025 throne speech, the Governor General also outlined government's plan for 21 additional water supply upgrading and expansion projects for the new fiscal year. These will have a projected expenditure of over $2.5 billion. They include the $77 million Rio Cobra treatment plant project, which is set to commence this year under a public-private partnership arrangement.
Once completed, this will provide an additional 15.5 million gallons of water daily to the Kingston metropolitan area, effectively ending the need for water lock-offs in the dry season in Kingston, St. Andrew, and Portmore.
In the current 2023-2024 fiscal year, 200,000 Jamaicans island-wide have benefited from water improvement projects costing some $4 billion. In other news, in a historic move aimed at streamlining and enhancing the electoral process, the Office of the Political Ombudsman has been subsumed into the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ. Following approval in both houses of Parliament, the Governor-General officially assented to the Act to amend the Political Ombudsman Interim Act 2024. It was subsequently gazetted on Tuesday, February 13, and is now law. The Office of the Political Ombudsman has played a vital role in overseeing and mediating political disputes to ensure fair and ethical conduct during elections. Government Senator Aubin Hill, who tabled the legislation in the upper house, asserted that consolidating this office with the ECJ would enhance public confidence in the electoral system by fostering greater accountability and responsiveness.
Because of the nationally recognized integrity and competence of the ECJ, no question about that, this commission is believed to be the most appropriate entity to undertake the work of the political ombudsman.
The move is also expected to yield a more streamlined and unified framework for handling electoral matters, improving coordination between various facets of the electoral process. And finally, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says Jamaica continues to make progress as the government remains committed to tackling organized crime and violence. He was addressing the second annual National Security Seminar held at the AC Hotel by Marriott in Kingston recently. The one-day event saw high-level government officials, law enforcement experts, and key local and international stakeholders gathered to address current and emerging threats to national security.
While we continue to pursue strong and innovative security measures, policies, and programs, we also prioritize and facilitate dialogue and knowledge exchange as important components.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This is what I appreciate about panel discussions. They assist in stimulating meaningful conversations on things that are important to us, while also challenging us to learn and improve in areas where we're not as knowledgeable. With that being said, let's talk candidly about a subject that is essential to our lives. Please, take a look.
Hi, I'm Katie Aloy Knight, and today I'm going to be discussing a topic. Well, we have all seen this behavior before. Our Jamaican men have no problem expressing their admiration for women, and there are some women who are comfortable doing likewise. But when the approach is wrong, a disconnect happens. It's an important topic we will discuss in our He Says, She Says series.
Sort out yourself, them coming for you. Sort out yourself, them coming for you and you. Sort out yourself, them coming for you.
Welcome to the start of our brand new series, He Says, She Says, where we express our perspectives on topics such as relationships, workplace habits, careers, and other issues that we frequently discuss in silos but are now bringing to the forefront. Joining us today are Reverend David Grant, the lead pastor of the Jamaica Evangelistic Center and the founder and CEO of Odigia Global, a leadership and personal development organization. Ms. Geraldine Garwood, a clinical psychologist, behavior analyst, and adult educator, and the founder of Behavior Change Consulting Services, and business owner Adermi Mitchell. Welcome to the show. They will be shedding some perspectives on everyday life situations we all want to talk about. And I'm your host, Andre Palmer. Today we're discussing romantic relationship dynamics. Let's get right into it. One of our local newspapers recently published an article detailing the attitude of why some women do not wish to marry. The following phrases stood out to me. My womb is not for rent, and I am safeguarding my mental health by not legally sharing my life with a man. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about these statements? Let's start with you, Reverend.
I figured you would. I figured you would. It's a very interesting statement, but it really speaks to what is happening right now. It's seeming to become the cultural norm. And the reality is that a lot of women have really been hurt by men. And so they find it more challenging these days to commit themselves. Because when you talk about marriage, for instance, marriage is a lifelong commitment. And to think that after 2 years, this guy could really go crazy on me, And it's not just about just having the sex, having the children. It's about a commitment. And the ladies want the commitment. But if I'm going to be committed to somebody, he must be stable.
Ms. Garwood?
It's interesting that we started off like this because before coming inside, I was sharing my own personal story. Mm-hmm. And I like to share my personal journey. Marriage for me, I really didn't have much interest growing up. And one of the reasons I was sharing earlier is because my father instilled some things in me. He used to say, don't let any man put their hand on you, don't let any man shout at you, don't, take certain things from a man. And so for me, to protect my own sanity, if a male shout at me, it does strike something in me, and I feel that I react negatively. So having listened to what was said in the article, I somewhat can understand why a woman may feel that she needs to maintain her mental balance by not engaging in a relationship because of their history of reinforcement, right? What they have experienced, or they were brought up, or they were trained as a child, and what has been passed down to them. Some persons feel, or some women feel, that they are better off single. They maintain a healthy mental framework when they are single as against when they are in a relationship, whether a marital relationship, whether a concubinage relationship, whatever we may call it. But most women, or a number of women today, are not getting interested in this marriage thing.
Love might just be a four-letter word, but it means a lot to persons who handle it with care. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy, and it does not boast. Love is caring. Love is sharing. Love is something that makes you feel happy. Love is both a feeling and an emotion. I might not love you as I should, but I love you more than any other human could.
I believe that really and truly it has a lot to do with social media in the role that it plays in regards to how they actually view marriage, to be honest. Where that is concerned is that basically the stigma that is going around where the new generation of women, per se, that are now here, are looking towards just wanting to be free, not to be tied down to anyone, per se. Because they more likely probably view it as, oh, well, I'm going to be locked down with this person for how many years? Till the day I die? Oh, you know? So they tend to try to shy away from the whole long-term thing in terms of the whole marriage.
Okay. A follow-up question I want to ask everybody is, what do you believe are some of the influences that contribute to the perspectives? Because you mentioned social media, Ms. Garwood, you mentioned about the whole background of the persons. So why do you think that these beliefs what influence these persons' relationship goals in our modern day time now?
For me, if I may, I think it's twofold. It's one, history, and two, where we are now. Adormi mentioned the whole matter of social media, right? Back in the day, we only had a few media houses, but now everybody is a media expert. And we have the social media influencers who they, for the most part, are just sprouting their own opinions, and because depends on the amount of likes and the amount of views that they have, they are now seen as authority on the subject matter. But then you also have, I said, history, where unfortunately, like in our context, we see the abuse, the breaking up of relationships.
To be honest, it sometimes has to do with the home that they grew up in when it comes on to relationships, where the mommy and daddy, and we all know that relationship has their ups and downs, but sometimes it goes a bit too far, where in the household it becomes consistent with the parents back and forth arguing. So that kind of deter them from literally entering into an actual relationship with someone for a long term.
I want to shape your question, Ms. Garwood, a little bit different, because you are a clinical psychologist. So from a psychological perspective, what sort of impact does these information and experiences that they gather have in terms of shaping the belief of the relationships that persons may start?
I think that a number of persons, or a number of women, rather, would shy away from relationship based on some of the traumatic experiences that they have had. So traumatic experiences in younger years, and even traumatic experiences while entering a relationship. Trauma is a serious thing. It can damage a person's mental process. And so some of the traumas that the women would have experienced from childhood, and even in relationships that they have attempted, would just deter them and say, I don't want to get involved with anybody anymore.
One more question. Here's another. Do you believe the increasing number of women in the workforce is leading the family disconnect?
It's a matter of how they balance. I believe, yes, it does have some measure of negative impact, but balancing is what is very important.
Balancing, as David said earlier, is very important, but I just don't think that persons can just balance off their own. I think some of these things need training, or it needs women empowerment, so that they can know that they have a support group, they have somebody in their corner to help them throughout balancing. Flipping
it to you, Adormi, in terms of from a younger person's perspective.
To be honest, right, from the younger generation, right, it's more like everybody's trying to be this independent person that doesn't really need another support, when really and truly we do need support from each other, regardless.
Why do you think persons like a man and woman will live together for like over 10 years and don't get married? Why marriage is not happening right there?
For you and a lady bond together and you have an understanding, it don't really mean that you have to go buy her a ring to show us your wife. For you have a divine connection with you and she and God, that's a part of the first marriage. And then if you see the value her and feel like you can finance her something valuable for sure, so she have that value, you can get her a ring.
Well, this is the end of our He Says, She Says conversation. Stay tuned for more. Our guests were Reverend David Grant, Ms. Geraldine Garwood, and Adormi Mitchell. Thank you for watching, and I am Andre Palmer. Take care.
Did you know you can vote without your new voter ID card? Once you're registered to vote, that is, your name is on the voters list, you can vote in the upcoming local government election. If you don't have your new ID card, simply go to your polling station on election day and our trained election day workers will assist you. This message is brought to you by the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
Our island nation is positioned to achieve our true destiny as a peaceful, productive, and prosperous country for all. We have had 10 consecutive quarters of economic growth since the pandemic. Our unemployment rate is at 4.2%. The lowest in the history of independent Jamaica. We recorded a balance of payments surplus on our current account for the first time since 1966. In September 2023, global ratings agency Standard & Poor's, S&P, upgraded Jamaica's credit rating to BB-, the highest level it has ever been. Jamaica's net international reserves at December 31, 2023 were at a record high. In November 2023, the government issued the first ever Jamaican dollar-linked bond on the international market in the amount of $46.6 billion, or US $300 million. By any objective measure, Jamaica's economic performance has been exemplary and has caught the attention of the world. The government continues its march towards a peaceful, productive, and prosperous Jamaica. Honorable members, as we envision the Jamaica we all want, customer-centric service must be the hallmark. The government is therefore committed to increasing the rollout of the Service Excellence Program across all ministries, departments, and agencies. Key components of the program include service delivery, minimum standards, complaints management, people engagement, communication, and change management. The National Identification and Registration Authority will be operationalized to commence enrollment and issue national identification cards. More government services will be made easily accessible online through use of the electronic national ID card to embrace and enhance productivity and growth. The Jamaica Data Exchange Platform will also facilitate the consent-based exchange of data between the private and public sectors to drive digital information. In 2024, the government will further strengthen financial sector regulations and key legislation, including, 1, the Custom Act, which, having gone through a joint select committee, is expected to be taken shortly. 2, Private Sector Pensions Act, which forms part of the pension reform process. 3, Income Tax Relief, Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Act, which will make provisions under one legislation for fiscal incentives for large-scale projects. And 4, amendments to the Financial Services Act to develop a regime for the consolidated supervision of non-deposit-taking institutions and facilitate the regulatory framework for the Twin Peaks model of financial regulation. The government's 40 billion shared prosperity through accelerated improvement to our road network program to upgrade more than 2,000 roads island-wide over the next 2 years has been launched. In the financial year 2024-2025, 21 additional water supply upgrading and expansion projects are planned at a projected expenditure of over Jamaica $2.5 billion. The Ray Cobre treatment plant project will continue this year or will commence this year under a public partnership arrangement costing US $77 million. The amendments to the Immigration Restriction Commonwealth Citizens Act and Aliens Act, which are now at advanced stages, will strengthen our national border management framework and support the wider territorial and sovereign protection reforms. The government will break ground for the construction of the Westmoreland Divisional Headquarters and the St. Catherine North Divisional Headquarters within this financial year. In the 2024-25 legislative year, the government will seek to enact a mediation bill, a restorative justice bill, and a new Justice of the Peace Jurisdiction Act to further enhance the role of lay magistrates. We will continue the improvement of access to justice, expansion of alternative justice services, and enhance legal aid services for vulnerable groups. Legislative priorities for the 2024-2025 financial year will focus on amendments towards establishing the Republic of Jamaica and under the whole of government legislation program, accelerate the pace of law reform and improve the quality of legislation promulgated. Honorable members, our health sector is undergoing the most comprehensive infrastructure improvement since our independence. The government is committed to the program of prevention for non-communicable diseases and will continue its Know Your Numbers campaign to provide 500,000 screening tests to the population.
We've reached the end of our program. Get a recap of everything you saw here and more on our website, jis.gov.jm. And remember, love is something that if you give it away, it comes right back to you. I'm Audrey Williams. Bye for now.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.